Welcome to Dark Sorcery. I'm Alfredo Martinez, and I have with me the one and only Sorsha Runarius. Sorsha, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you doing?
Doing great. And it's good to have you on the channel. And first of all, we're going to go ahead and have a magical chat. And one thing that I would like to know is, what's your definition of magic?
You know, for me, I consider magic something that is our inherent birthright. You know, every person is magical. Anybody can do magic. I just see it as a lot of people deny that, suppress that due to, religious and social controls. But it's just something that is innate in all of us. Being able to create change with your will. You can do it just with your will alone, or you can partner with different spiritual forces and develop those things and those connections, I think, to be a more effective magician.
Yeah, I think that some people have a misconception of magic because really magic can be anything you want it to be. I mean,
absolutely.
There's different ways that are not considered scientific that you can cause change to occur.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't see that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and like a lot of people, have defined magic as, causing change with one's will through supernatural means, non-physical means. A lot of people have said that over time, and that's, accurate on one hand, but I think that any kind of magic that you do, any kind of energy work, any kind of intention should also be backed up in the physical world. You should be living your life in such a way that would support the intent that you are intending to achieve, for the outcome. You need to be able to back it up in thought and word and deed and put that out there. It's just something that I think a lot of people think magic is hard, and it can be challenging, but it's as natural as breathing. We are magic just by essence of being alive and being human. It's something that we can develop and expand on, and we can learn all these kinds of systems, but at the end of the day, magic is definitely from within. It always starts within.
Yeah. Is that like science is just beginning to catch up to magic and to spiritual means. I think that once they do finally catch up and are official, I think that everybody's perception would change.
I think it'll get more mainstream. I think that there'll always be people who can explore the bounds of magic as we currently have it. I mean, I consider it something that, limitless. I think that we all have limitless potential. We have certain laws of physics and things, natural laws and social laws that we have to kind of abide by at times. But I think that the gap between magic and science is narrowing every day. And scientists are always talking about things that magicians have known about and practiced for years, and it's just becoming more mainly accepted. So it's kind of exciting and interesting to see that happen.
It is. It's an exciting time to be living in. What would you say is the biggest mistake that you think that new practitioners make?
I would say, I think that a lot of new people, when they are first coming into magic and wanting to get information, they can be overwhelmed by just the sheer amount of information out there. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, you had to go to the library to find books on magic, or you had to have connections with secret lodges. So information was harder to get in the past, I think. But now, a click of a few buttons and you can find anything on any topic with some research. So I think sometimes people get a little overwhelmed. They don't know where to start, and for that I tell them, start within, start with what interests you, and just kind of start expanding from there. I also think the other biggest challenge new people face is self-doubt, not trusting your own wisdom, your own self, and self-doubt is a killer of magic. It can cripple you. But once you can trust yourself, trust your intuition, then you can kind of, find the things that resonate with you. And then you can explore those and expand upon those and use what works.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people, especially when they're beginning, tend to limit themselves on who they are, and what they can do. So you do have a good point on that. Another thing is that I think that a lot of new practitioners, a mistake they make is having a lot of people in their ear and trying to tell them what is and what isn't and what to do. You know what I mean? Like, we'll take, for instance, someone who, they'll say they like an author, and they'll say, well, okay, I believe everything he says, but I don't have much of an open eye to everybody else. At the same time, they might have a lot of people in the ear saying, well, don't listen to that person, don't listen to that person.
Yeah, that's something that I see, I mean, we've all done it. I think we've all found authors that we really like, we latch onto, we resonate with. But I think, there's a tendency to put people on pedestals. Everybody's human, everybody bleeds the same, So there are a lot of people that have been doing it longer that have like a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we can respect their work, respect their contributions to the magical world. But don't take everything as concrete gospel. I think that people should, look at what really speaks to them and then test it out. What works for one, like some people might have excellent results with a particular person's work and suggestions, another person may not. Both is true for them with where they are. So I think being able to just, test it out, experiment, be willing to go big or go home, be willing to make epic fucking mistakes, be willing to do those things. Understand that, there might be varying level of consequences depending on what it was you were doing and what your intentions were. But I think, don't be afraid to go out and play, because I think that like our psyche and the spirits, it's like they want to set us up for success. I think the universe is conspiring to help us conceive, to succeed. And when we can maybe come at it from that approach rather than something, you see a lot of people out here, and I don't know if you're on TikTok, but I see a lot of people out there, sharing knowledge, or, new people coming in seeking knowledge. And, they tend to find people that just are very stuck in their ways. This is the only way to do things. And then, and if you don't do it this way, you're going to be cursed, exponentially into affinity. I mean, it's just bullshit, some of the stuff you see. And that can be really discouraging for people, or it might scare them off, or people coming into the more left-hand path currents, or working with demons, for different reasons. I think a lot of people starting out have a lot of preconceived notions. So I think being willing to leave your preconceptions at the door and just experience what you experience and let it unfold and let it happen is the way to approach it, I think.
Agreed. And I also think that a lot of people, one problem is judging other people's magic. What works for them works for them. I mean, we all have our own styles and our own perceptions of things. And, when you compare that to chaos magic, that's especially true. Say, well, that person is doing it wrong. Who are we to say that? Because, everybody has different innate abilities, but everybody is capable. The way I see it.
Absolutely. That's a good point.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest mistake that experienced practitioners make?
I would say getting complacent, or resting on one's laurels. Once you've been out here a while, you start getting really good results. I think that there's a tendency to, sometimes ego creeps in a way that can just make you feel like, you've arrived. We've never arrived. It's a constant process of arriving and growing and evolving. So just kind of keeping it in perspective that way. I also think that people hit plateaus and then they don't go any further sometimes, and then they get comfortable where they're at. So just continuing to challenge yourself, and sometimes you have to be creative in finding things that you might find challenging. But I see that a lot with more experienced people, sometimes just getting frustrated, like they just, they've done some epic things, they've gotten good results. They sometimes think that, they don't have to continue working, and that's just not so. We always have to grow and evolve if we're going to just continue reaching higher levels for ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of people, they'll go through a grueling process of growing and coming into their own and being established, and then they think that's it. And then they think, well, they get complacent. They become what's called an armchair occultist.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't practice as much as they used to, and evoke, do observe the full moon or whatever their routine was, and they just become complacent. So I definitely agree with you on that.
They get complacent, but they also lose the wonder. What drew you to magic in the first place? I think being able to kind of keep the sense of wonder, keep the sense of awe, can kind of keep it more fresh within your energy rather than just becoming callous to it. When it becomes so easy because, with repetition and experience, and success begets success, when you anticipate that when you do magic, things will happen,
Yeah.
and you always want to keep that feeling, but you always want to just keep growing on all levels and just not let yourself live on the plateau. You can be there for a while, but you need to look for the next elevation, the next step, the higher vantage point, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Growth is a continual process. It's not something you arrive to.
Yeah.
No matter how experienced or respected or established you may be, you still have to grow, and you can become complacent, and others can pass you up and make you look like. I mean, yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, what would you say? How would you place the importance of making magic your own? I mean, not just learning from other people, but finding your own way of doing things instead of just copying what other people do. And how
I would say
that's very important.
Yeah, I would say it's critical. I think that, starting out, you can use other resources and guidelines. I mean, I have a lot of magical books, a lot of grimoires that have a lot of awesome information. And I've, tried out a lot of rituals as written and, gotten good results. Sometimes, maybe if it resonated with me on one hand, but there was just a few things I had to adjust. It's like you can use this as a template, but I think magic is meant to be explored on your own. I mean, you can use other people's ideas, you can experience what they have given you kind of as the shell to work with, but I think it's always good to go deeper. It's always good to personalize it, because magic is something of emotion, being able to feel it. It's an issue of heart, and it has to be personal, I think, for the best work to manifest. Um, being willing to adjust things as needed, being willing to be adaptable. You don't have to go out and buy a bunch of fancy tools and supplies. Use what you have. you know
Yeah.
a lot of people get so hung up on, oh my god, it's not the right moon phase, or oh my god, I don't have XYZ ingredient for something. You can learn to make your own correspondences, or if you have studied a lot of herbology, there's a lot of, you can substitute things. So I think people get so hung up on it that it cripples them, that they don't go forward with it, when in fact magic is what you make it. And always learn, always appreciate insights from others, I think. But go out there and you are magic, so go out there and do magic, be magic, put that out there, and trust that you'll achieve something. And if you have to make adjustments along the way, you'll know for next time what to do different.
Yeah, I agree with having to make adjustments. I mean, you can follow someone's work up to a certain point, but at some point you're going to have to tweak things to your own style, because just like we all have certain spiritual gifts, and not everybody is magically the same, has the same abilities. I think that everybody has certain abilities locked inside them, but they have to unlock them. And when they follow someone else's magic to a T, that's for someone who has, maybe for someone who has certain innate abilities, but you're different. You have to bring out what's in you and not go along with what's been brought out in somebody else. Is the way I see it.
And that's the way that people, I think, people that are writing about their experiences and have published books, like they know themselves very well. They understand their abilities, and then they've put it out there for other people to check out, which is awesome. I think people sometimes get discouraged if their ritual, maybe didn't didn't sound like or didn't appear like what was described in the book. Oh my gosh, I didn't, hear the spirit talking to me. Well, he was there whether you could hear him or not, because when you work
Yeah.
with them, they come. But maybe your stronger gift is like feeling them rather than hearing them. What kind of a learner are you? Are you auditory, visual, kinesthetic type of learner? So if somebody really can know themselves and know like where their strengths are, I mean, like with me, I'm more of a kinesthetic learner and a visual learner more than an auditory learner. So for me, I very rarely hear spirit voices as like a conversation in a room. I feel them, I sense them, I get perceptions or visuals more than I get auditory input. And it took me a while to kind of realize that. And the auditory is something that I can develop further. But I wouldn't want somebody to like be at that point and then get discouraged thinking, oh man, it didn't work because I didn't hear them. No, you just were like on the different channel. They were there. You just needed to open your eyes, or to feel them. And again, that comes back with, knowing yourself, making it your own, and just kind of accepting that one person's strength may not be your strength, but you can still develop any strength you want, like any muscle in the body. You can work it out and work on that.
Yeah, agreed. Um, what kind of a difference would you say that blood magic makes?
Blood magic. Oh, yeah. I think that, blood is a powerful thing. It's our life force. It's our life essence. You know, it's very personal. It's our energetic thumbprint. It carries that. So when you add that to a ritual in, whatever form you choose, whether it's, pin pricking or, adding it to a sigil or to other ingredients or to a glass of wine, I think it's a very personal thing. I don't use blood with every spirit I work with. It's a very intimate thing. Um, but I feel like it creates a stronger link. And, some people, when they think blood magic, they think, okay, animal sacrifice, and that's another topic. It's really taboo in some, it's a classic method. If you look at the history of magic, including Christianity and Judaism is the book is full with sacrifice, animal and human, throughout the whole book. So there's a long history of blood magic being done in religions and magical orders. I think that there's a time and a place for it depending on what one's inclination is, but the way that I see it is that, okay, we're human, and we have, divinely infernal, however we want to look at it. That's a powerful thing. So I consider my blood more powerful than that of an animal. So I would consider my blood having more powerful energy. I would rather use my own blood than sacrifice an animal personally. I mean, I'm not judging those who do animal sacrifice. A lot of my friends do in different traditions. But for me, I prefer my own blood. I find that, as a magician, we develop like I call it kingship mentality or queenship mentality, kingship mentality. And when you see yourself as such, that is like one of the most intimate, worthy gifts, because you're literally sharing your life force with something, you're offering it, or you are strengthening a ritual. And as such, you're also claiming blood sovereignty over it. So you can use your blood in any number of applications, for baneful, for beneficial, for all kinds of workings, healing. Um, it's like you're claiming blood sovereignty, you're covering a situation with your blood. And it's like you are in command of your own blood. Your blood can't be used against you when you understand it that way. So it's just another layer that I think magicians can consider and utilize.
I think you brought up a good point when saying that you don't use blood for every spirit you work with, because it is a very intimate thing. You could foolishly, use blood with the wrong spirit, and then all of a sudden, you have a connection with that spirit, and then it's very hard to disconnect from that.
Absolutely, because you're getting into like blood ties, soul ties. And there are some spirits that I don't want that closely aligned with me. I might do other things if I'm doing offerings, Um, but for the spirits that I work with the most closely with, I'll often, offer some blood. Usually I'll use lancets, you know, because it's clean and you can get quite a bit of blood. Um, I mean, I am a phlebotomist as well, so I can draw it safely from a vein, but I've never had, I don't need to do it that way. You know, lancets will give you plenty of blood because a little goes a long way. You know, you don't have to
You don't need a
pour
lot.
out
Yeah.
pints, you know, but it's definitely, I find it very beneficial. And it just is so, it doesn't get more personal than your own blood. You lose your blood, you're dead. So,
Yeah.
you know, you're giving a little piece of yourself into this offering. And I think that it can enhance any kind of a working that you're doing. Um, you know, and I don't necessarily use it, you know, even if I'm doing a working where I'm not working with spirits. Sometimes I don't use blood, you know, I just go with what feels right. I just, you know, before every ritual, you know, I'll kind of check in. And sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to do exactly during a ritual. I love spontaneous rituals. Like I'll have a general purpose, like, okay, I'm going to do it for this kind of an outcome. But I like to just let the magic flow through me. And then in the moment, okay, I'm just going to get this and this and this. And then I'll be in the middle of a ritual. And then I'll just think of something else to kind of incorporate. And then it'll just click into place energetically. And then you just know it's perfect. So, I love to experiment. I love to play with magic, and I always get results, you know. So, I mean, that's for me. That works for me. For other people, they might be more comfortable doing something else. But I think when you look at, you know, power and energy and blood, um, from the perspective that I mentioned, I think that, you know, it's just a power enhancer. So why not use it?
Yeah. Very good explanation. I like that. Um, what is the most common method of divination to you and why?
Well, for me, you know, I have to go back to that intuition. I've always just been an intuitive person. You know, I'll meditate on a situation and just kind of see how it's going to play out. You know, I do use tarot and I do use pendulums as well, you know, for like quick yes, no questions, simple things that maybe I don't have a really strong emotional investment because, you know, pendulums are an idiometric device and can easily be manipulated via your thoughts and emotions. Tarot was harder to manipulate. Tarot was more objective, I think. So when I really need to take a deeper look, I'll go within the tarot. Um, you know, I also like to scry for divination as well. So I like to just, you know, meditate and scry a lot of the time, um, draw tarot cards, and use my intuition the most, though.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
Yeah. I like to use tarot. I like to use the pendulum. It just depends. Sometimes I think that if you have an open mind as to the gods, what the gods are trying to tell you, sometimes you don't need a divination. Sometimes it's just your everyday life. Because I think that if the gods want to tell you something, they'll throw hints out in your everyday life, whether it's things that you see, things you come across, or just stuff that
Hmm.
pops up in your mind. People who approached you out of nowhere, because the thing is, I think a lot of people, God's try to tell them things, but they don't have an open mind and they just don't see it, you know.
You know what's interesting, and it might sound kind of funny, but it works. You know, like I'll have something that I'm pondering, and you know, I'll just be like flipping through Netflix or something, and I'll, you know, watch a show or a movie, and somewhere in, you know, in the process of doing that, like, you know, it's not like, oh, voices are talking at me through the TV. No, it's more
Yeah.
like something will just kind of inspire me or click, like, oh, that actually really aligns with the situation. Now I get more insight into it. I mean, it's a tool, but you know, I do find that that happens, you know, now and then, like you said, like looking for the synchronicities in life, you know, people, books, things just that kind of reflect that other situation, I think is very common. Um, and you know, it's always it's always nice when that happens because it just reaffirms that, you know, yeah, these are, it's all interconnected. This is how, you know, I can observe things and dive into things and gain insight, um, without even using traditional
Yeah,
tools, you know?
everything is connected, and I've heard you talk a bit in your videos about the spider web, and I think that any practitioner who's experienced will come across that at some point. you can have practitioners that don't even know each other, but they'll separately mention the spider web, how everything's connected at some point in their practice. So that's definitely, yeah. How do you use numerology in your practice?
Well, with the numerology, I don't really have hard and fast rules, but sometimes it'll manifest as, like certain numbers of things. It might come down to, you know, during part of an evocation, repeating, like the catchphrase a certain number of times. It corresponds with, the number that represents the outcome or the energy, like physically manifesting or, spiritual enlightenment. There's different numbers, of course, associated with different things. So, or it could be the number of candles that I have present, to kind of help bring in that energy and anchor it in more firmly. I don't worry so much about, I know a lot of people kind of take it from there into then like the more astrological timings, which I think can be interesting energies to consider as well, but I don't let that limit me. Like if I need to do a ritual, regardless of the phase of the moon, regardless of the time of day or day of the week, I'm going to do it. So I think there's a lot of like ways to play with it and try it out, but just don't let it limit you, because
Right.
I've seen people out here wondering, oh my God, I can't do this kind of work because, Mercury's in retrograde, and I'm like, you're the magic, man. I mean, you can take these into consideration, but at the end of the day, you're the force driving that boat. So don't let anything stop you or limit you.
Yeah, I think that it is true that, at the base, everything is made up of numbers. And, using numerology can give you a boost in your magic. But yeah, like you said, don't worry about getting too deep into it, because, what's needed at the time, you can still do it.
Yeah. It's definitely a fascinating study, though. It's interesting to kind of like learn about it, and you can learn it over time and incorporate it as you see fit, I think is the way to go, rather than trying to just pour over the books and worry about every little detail of, timing and days. I mean, I think that can slow you down more than it can help you if it becomes something that holds you back from magic. I think, as things start making sense as you study them, then you can say, aha, that's why maybe I had X amount of candles on my altar, or repeated this a certain number of times, or, did any number of things. So, and that just kind of comes with time and experience and just, going with it.
It does. Now, let's talk a little bit about your latest video that you did on your YouTube channel called the Twilight Crossroads. I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
And for those who may not have been to your channel and seen that video, go ahead and give a brief synopsis of what the Twilight Crossroads is.
Okay. So the Twilight Crossroads, I've spoken about it, and, I've written a little bit about it before. It's like a construct, an energetic construct between space and time. We talk about like the crossroads moments, to interact with the spirit realm. Anytime you're doing magic, you're in a crossroads type of moment. And in that video, I discussed like physically going to a crossroads of some type, whether it is, roads intersecting, or like any crossroads in your house, where like a door meets a hallway. I mean, a door coming into a room that creates like a flow of energy. And, there's like little micro crossroads within your own environment. But in the example in that video, I gave a very physical, literal crossroads with, intersecting roads that I went out to. And so I encourage people to like, find places, whether, in their home, in their room, or out someplace in the community that just resonates with you. And it's like a power spot, a vortex type of place, is good for crossroads work. And obviously literal crossroads naturally create those conditions. So find yourself a crossroad and, consider energy like water. It's something that you can tap into for all kinds of purposes. You can drink it, you can save it up, you can let it flow into your environment. So, being able to go to a crossroads and just kind of like observe the pattern of it, I consider it as like an energetic sigil for a physical place. So as your eyes, move over like the area of the crossroad, if you're standing a little ways out of it, it may not be a perfect X perpendicular with the 90 degrees, it can be any number of angles, but just that crossroad zone, let your eyes just kind of take in the environment around you. And if you kind of like trace it with your eyes, keep your body still, but you trace it with your eyes, it creates like an energetic sigil that kind of can implant in your brain. It can tweak. I think my theory is that it can like maybe play with neurons, because when you start getting into things like rapid eye therapy, EMDR, there's like cross wiring your brain. So you can do this with sigils as well, any sigil, but crossroads especially. And you can enter into the crossroads and like ground and center your energy there into the crossroads. I mean, I do a lot of work with the abyss, with the void. And so, the example I gave in that video was like anchoring yourself there, bringing it back up through the crossroads, and then seeing it as tendrils kind of flowing out that you then anchor to the points of the crossroad and to the environment to kind of create a stronger flow of that void energy that you just can feel and infuse that space with or yourself with. And the visual that I kind of gave was like the spine of a book opening, like the book is on its side, opening to the pages. And it's like, as you step into that crossroad, that is like a possibility of reality. You flip the pages, there's different possibilities. So it's just wherever you anchor that energy is what that possible scenario is, like a dimensional type of thing, like a dimensional overlay on the area. And you could anchor it there to keep that potential flowing. And it's something that you can like, you can, leave it like open like that. And people that are really sensitive to energy, they might feel something as they cross through that zone. They may or may not sense it. Most mundane people won't. People that are very inclined to magic, they might, but because it is like your construct, because, it's your anchor points, they won't necessarily be able to mess with it. It's just something that you have access to and you carry within you. And I also spoke about like how energy flows with different angles. I love studying angles, okay, geometry, sacred geometry, and just like the angles, how how energy can like be more constricted or expansive, how it rushes slower or faster depending on where you're at in a crossroads moment or a literal crossroads. The example I gave was like if you're standing in a river and like the river is water, energy is energy, but it's a river of energy. If you're standing square on, like if I'm standing in the middle of a river, the 90 degrees perpendicular to the flow, it's hitting me very strongly. So for like being able to pull in a lot of energy quickly, standing in a crossroad in line with the road will do that. You can feel that energy flow more quickly. If you stand parallel to that flow, it kind of flows around you and creates less ripples. Like if you take a piece of plywood and put it in a river, perpendicular, it's going to have a lot of pressure hitting it. If you turn it sideways, it's very smooth, like a piece of paper. It just goes around it like a small rock. Energy does the same thing, okay, with your awareness. When your attention is full on, there's more energy coming towards you. That's good for like, filling up, filling up your reserves, so to say. When you want to kind of be able to do it in a more controlled manner, the angle is 45 degrees in a river to navigate a river. I used to be into like the medic and fire scene. And so we were doing swiftwater rescue. And when we were practicing in the river, the North Fork of the San Am, very cold river in the middle of winter, we had wetsuits. When we're floating down the river, the way that you steer the river is you turn your legs at a 45-degree angle, opposite the shore you want to go to, and then you'll get to the other shore type of thing. So learning how to understand angles and how that pushes and controls the flow of energy so you can control it, I think is an interesting concept. And when we tap into the crossroads themselves, we feel that flow, we can like anchor that flow and direct that flow. And with our awareness, tapped in, it's like you're seeing through multiple layers of reality all at once. And so, you can learn things from the spirits that kind of come forth from that chapter of the book that you have opened in the crossroads, if that makes sense. Does any of that make sense?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very interesting.
But that's, kind of the basic idea of the crossroads, and you can then, kind of let the energy settle and then, leave and go back about your business. But every time you go by those crossroads, you'll feel it. You'll always feel like the little tendrils kind of still anchored in that zone. But, I encourage people to try it and experiment with it,
Yeah.
And the first time I did it, I went out at twilight, that's why it's the Twilight Crossroads, but you could do it any time of day. But I find that those in between times of light and darkness are particularly well for crossroads work, or particular geographies, like where the ocean meets the shore. That's a crossroads, a natural crossroads, because it's where two very different things meet up. And so I look for those in nature, and each one has different lessons to teach you. So I find it a very interesting, thing to study and work with.
Yeah, it is. And I encourage people to go ahead and watch that video on it.
Uh-oh, I lost you for a second. There we go.
For anybody who is interested in that, I'll leave the links below to her channel, and you can go ahead and check that out. Now, where do you see the future of magic and Black magicians in general?
I see it coming more out into the mainstream. I see, the gap between science and magic continuing to decrease every day. I think it's going to eventually be a more mainstream endeavor. It's just going to be more accepted science at some point. Maybe not everything. It's hard to see that far ahead, but it's happening, as we speak, I think. So just having it be more in the public consciousness. I see people being able to continue collaborating together and working on things, and expanding and just pushing the edges of magic is what I see happening in the future of magic.
Do you agree that as it's accepted more and more in mainstream, that our technology will change?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it definitely can refine the current technology, and and a lot of technology can refine magic. I think some people who study magic, maybe some of the more traditional streams of magic, might shun certain technological things. However, I think that, it's good to use the best of both worlds, and they can definitely enhance each other. So I think both will develop and evolve.
Yeah, great. Well, what can we expect from you in the future?
For me, I just want to write and put out some books, and connect with other people, look for opportunities to collaborate on different things. And one thing that I really want to do at some point, I'm still really passionate about in-person meetups. I would love to facilitate different types of magical meetups for folks that are more on the left-hand path. So, I know that right now with a lot of the social things and going on and restrictions, it might be a little bit harder for some people to travel and get around, but I still think that is a good direction to consider, is just the in-person connection is so valuable and precious and community building. So I hope that people don't give up on it. I hope that people will continue to come together when they can.
It's a good experience, because I myself have met up physically with other practitioners that I've talked with online, and I've done rituals with them as well. And it's a very good experience. So yeah, I'm definitely down for that as well.
I agree. Some of the best memories and experiences of my life have been with other magical people. When we had the chance to cross paths, meet up, and do magic together, it was amazing. It was good. So I want more of that. And, you know, if there are things that I can do to facilitate that in different ways with different groups, I'm down for that. So, you know,
Yeah,
more
definitely.
connection and collaboration with people is what I want to do.
Great, great. Well, Sorsha, it's been a pleasure speaking with you and been an interesting conversation. And for everybody else, if you would like to know more about her YouTube channel and her other social media links, I'll go ahead and put those in the video beneath. You can go and check those out. Thank you for being on.
Thank you so much, Alfredo. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to being able to come on and chat again sometime. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Everybody, have a good night.